Ronkonkoma. There are several other candidates running, and I'm interested in challenging the current incumbency of Israel. There's three simple things I'm focusing on with the campaign, and a lot has to do with reorganizing our economy and our banking system. Obviously, the first priority is, in my estimation, the president is impeachable and should be defeated electorally. If elected to Congress and Obama is reelected, I will introduce articles of impeachment. Now, the fine point of the matter, the banking system. We have to reorganize and go back to the laws we used to have that worked very well, and one in particular is the Glass-Steagall Act, or the Emergency Banking Act of 1933. Our current incumbent feels that this is not necessary, and he feels that further the bailout, the Barney Frank Dodd bill, is just fine. I disagree. Some of you may be familiar with it by name or by substance. The basic idea is we used to separate commercial banking from investment banking, with the idea being the basic investments of the commercial system would be handled in a very precise way. Your mortgages, your loans, your small business activity could not be speculated with in things like hedge fund activity or things that are very risky. Those things in former times were isolated to the investment banking system. Now, 10 years ago, when this law was removed, everything went out the window, and there is now no standard for our largest financial institutions, which is why many of them are dead men walking. In other words, they're being perpetually bailed out because they don't have the ability to sustain themselves. So that's just the basic surgery. The real interesting thing we should get to, though, is the question of what should we build here in the district. And my preference is to revisit what we used to have with things like Grumman, NASA, high-tech goods production, industry. What we have right now is a collapsing economy because we've avoided orienting our money and our resources into the new frontier, whatever it may be. Unfortunately, NASA has been reduced down to very dangerous levels, which basically it's almost closing. Now today, interestingly enough, the head of the Russian Space Agency made public a whole series of dialogues they are having with our people at NASA. That is a serious commitment to colonize the moon, to build another space station or settlement therein. I think that we ought to commit to building programs like these and orienting our young people to participate in the high end of these projects. Granted, not everyone will be qualified to be a cosmonaut or astronaut or a scientist. However, all of these spin-off industries that are part of that will revive the economy. And maybe those of you who know a little bit about Grumman and Republic Airport and what used to be the economy here on the island, you know a bit of that story, perhaps through your family history. And in closing, I'll be around the district organizing as best I can. If you wish to participate, please give me a call or contact or help in the process whatever way you can. My point is we have to focus our policies and our priorities in a very narrow way. There are a lot of angry folks out there right now. I understand why. But we don't maintain a very specific priority on solving these particular big problems, we're never going to solve it. Or we're going to get involved in a yelling match with everybody we should be working with. So that's the gist of what I wanted to share. If you have questions, I don't know if we have time, but I'll be here for...
We have another 2 minutes if you'd like to talk, if you want to take questions.
Yeah, by all means. Just questions. Yeah, go right ahead.
I just want to know if you have any of your own funds to run your campaign.
A little. I have a little, but nothing substantial. The point is, it's kind of like the David and Goliath story. We have problems for our problems, and we have huge beasts in Washington, whether they're financial institutions or think tanks or lobbyists with their own agenda, their own shtick. And I cannot compete with them dollar for dollar. So how do I beat them? How do we beat them? Well, we make them play our game, which is discussing substance. Oh my God, what is that substance? You make the political people in Washington, our other members of Congress, discuss substance. The Glass-Steagall Act. We're in the midst of a presidential election, and everyone's tearing their hair out trying to figure out who is the best candidate. How do you tell? Sometimes it's very difficult to tell. And the only way you know the difference is if you have a very specific idea of what the problem is and the solutions. So you have that, that's your best weapon. I know that's sort of an odd thing to say because in politics there's a lot of money spent and a lot of it is wasted. Wasted on glitter, glam, and just image with no substance. So my focus is on the history, the substance, and shaping the process. Whether I get the nomination or not, I would love to get the nomination. However, my concern is that we all have an agreement and an understanding where we're heading to. And when we see our own people or the competition going nuts, that we know better, and we know how to orient the rest of the population and communicate to them where we should go. For example, here on the island, the nuclear power plant at Shore and Wading River, I don't think we should have shut it down many years ago. It was a mistake. Now there is time you can spend to study the science and know how these processes work. In the population, a lot of people fear nuclear power, not because they're scared of where the waste will go, they're scared of trusting their neighbor. So I would like the campaign and other campaigns to begin to address these different fears that people have, either directly or by providing qualified leadership. And, you know, sometimes that can raise a lot of money, sometimes not. So I'm not too concerned about raising millions. Yes?
Actually, going along with that, they closed down Shore and Wading River basically for the simple fact that it takes more than 2 hours to get people off of the island. When a nuclear power plant goes, you have to be able to get off in 2 hours. You don't have the ability to do that. That's why it closed down. But, you know, and that's my question to you is, where are you planning on building another nuclear power plant? Are you still going to go back to shore? Because it's already been proven that it cannot work.
Well, if you have any friends or family in the Navy, how do they get off an aircraft carrier? Can you get off an aircraft carrier? They can't. So they put the work and the skill into designing these things that they are almost very safe. Almost.
But almost only counts in Washington Hanger. It doesn't count in my life. I mean, I honestly don't want to be on this island when they tell you.
I know, but what they have at Brookhaven now is they have a collider. They're going through experiments all the time, whether you know it or not. So those things are happening there. Are you still scared about getting off the island? I think the real issue is trust. Granted, we're not going to hire Homer Simpson to run our plants.
Should hope not.
Now, within the more modern models, particularly the latest generation, the pebble bed reactors, they're extremely safe. And I think within the Navy and the military, we have these skilled personnel we can recruit. I mean, God forbid, they would like to work in the civilian sector. On the website, I have a link to a company that's building out in the Midwest. And I think they're doing the right thing. Maybe if we reach out to them and talk to them, they can give us an idea of how best to approach this, because what you're really asking for is an engineering question. And I don't have the knowledge yet, but I'm looking for those people, because I think that's the route we should go. And by contrast, look at Solyndra, solar power, wind power. These things do not work. They're scams. They do not provide the power for the people and the needs we have in the district.
Excuse me, Paul.
Yeah.
I'm going to go on. I have some time, so just former running Congress.